Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the show. Yet another episode of Crushing Fantasy Football. I am Bryce Lockridge, your host of the show. All right, guys, today I have a list for you of 7 must-own players. Now, I want to be very clear about what I qualify as a must-own player. It cannot be a consensus first-round pick. There's a lot of fantasy analysts out there that they're going to give you their list of must-own players for the season, and they're going to list Christian McCaffrey and Justin Jefferson and Cooper Kupp. And this just doesn't make any sense because we all know that these guys are consensus first-round picks and that you want these guys on your fantasy team. That's obvious information. I'm not here to give you all obvious information. I'm going to be talking to you about guys that come at tremendous draft value, okay? Now, a lot of these guys are going to be taken in the middle round. Some of these guys in the later round. But they're going to at least all be being taken as late as the back end of round 2. That way, they're not just a super obvious consensus first-round pick because that's just essentially wasting y'all's time. So I'm going to be getting at you guys with this list, and I'm going to start right here with the first player on my list, and that is DeAndre Swift. Now, this is a guy who is going over to an Eagles team who has probably the best offensive line in the entire league. Couple that with DeAndre Swift's insane efficiency in his young career, 6.3 yards per touch last year, second in the NFL. His career, he has been elite, 5.5 yards per carry. 4.58 yards created per touch last season. This is second in the NFL. That's how many yards you create after you bounce off the first tackle. This dude is a tremendous tackle-breaking running back, despite being a smaller guy. He can break tackles like the best of them. He's got good speed. He's got elusiveness. He's a great pass-catching back. This dude has an insane amount of talent. An 8.1% breakaway run rate last year. 8.1% of the time he was running the ball for 15 yards or more. I could go on and on about DeAndre Swift. This dude has tremendous talent, but he hasn't really broken out from a fantasy perspective because the Detroit Lions would just not set him free and allow him to be the fantasy running back that he very well could be. But in Philadelphia, I don't know that that's necessarily going to be the case. I mean, they got DeAndre Swift for a reason, right? They want an elite rusher behind that elite offensive line. Couple this with the fact that teams have to account for Jalen Hurts because he's the biggest rushing threat in the backfield. So teams have to account for Jalen Hurts running the ball on them. This is going to open up even bigger running lanes for DeAndre Swift behind an elite offensive line. This dude could very well average 6 yards a carry this year. If he plays all 17 games and averages 6 yards a carry, I would not be surprised. He very well could have the best yards per carry efficiency in the entire NFL. The touchdown upside is freakishly high. We saw it with Miles Sanders last year. The dude had 11 rushing touchdowns. Look for DeAndre Swift to do something pretty similar. Rashad Penny running behind him could very easily get hurt and leave DeAndre Swift in a spot where he's by far and away the number one running back in the backfield with no competition for touches. This guy has freakish, crazy upside, and you don't have to get him until like round 6 or 7. This dude's a massive steal. Get him on your fantasy team. Next player on my list is going to be Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar Jackson, last year, a 100.7 true passer rating. This was second in the NFL. This was with a lack of wide receiving weapons. We now have a team who is loaded. We add Zay Flowers to the offense. We add Odell Beckham. We've got Mark Andrews. Okay, this team is loaded with pass-catching weapons. Okay, now Lamar Jackson gets this massive contract, and for some reason, his ADP really hasn't gone up at all. I think this is very much because of the fact that it just happened, and we're still getting closer and closer to the season. As we get closer to the season, I cannot imagine this guy's ADP not skyrocketing between now and the time the season starts. If it doesn't, that doesn't make any sense. As of right now, he's a massive steal, being taken as like the 6th or 7th quarterback off the board. This is mind-blowing to me. This dude easily has quarterback 1 upside. And so why would you waste an early pick on Josh Allen or Pat Mahomes when you could just wait and get Lamar Jackson, who has the same floor, the same ceiling, right? And you don't have to get him till 4 or 5 rounds later. Guys, just fade those 2 quarterbacks early and draft wide receivers and running backs early like you're supposed to do and just wait on Lamar Jackson. Next player on my list is going to be Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper last year, 132 targets. This is the most targets that Amari Cooper has ever seen in his entire career. And he had 1,160 receiving yards, 1,700 plus air yards. This is top 5 in the NFL. The dude scored 9 touchdowns. This is a player who he's slept on every year going into the draft. He's been like that his entire career, and he comes out last year and has more targets than he's ever had in his entire fantasy career, and his ADP has not gone up from his preseason ADP last year at all. Couple this with the fact that we add Deshaun Watson to the offense, one of the best quarterbacks in this league that people simply have just seemed to have forgotten about just because he hasn't played a full season in a while. Guys, Amari Cooper did all this last year with a bunch of nobodies throwing him the ball. Now we have one of the better quarterbacks in the entire league in Deshaun Watson coming in to throw Amari Cooper the ball and lead this offense to being one of the more efficient offenses in the NFL. There's no way in the world this won't be a top 10 NFL offense. They have the ceiling of being a top 1 NFL offense. Guys, Amari Cooper is going to absolutely explode this year. If you want to draft a lot of running backs early because that's your draft style, Amari Cooper could be the first wide receiver you take off the board and produce wide receiver one numbers for you all season long. Now, I recommend hero running back and, drafting a lot of wide receivers early this year. But, if you want to wait on wide receivers, Amari Cooper could be your wide receiver one, and he will produce wide receiver one numbers if he stays healthy. There's no way that he won't. Next player on my list, speaking of who we were just talking about, Deshaun Watson. Guys, this guy was a top 5 fantasy quarterback every season that he played a full healthy season in Houston. This is being in a terrible system with really no offensive weapons outside of DeAndre Hopkins. You now add him to an offense with a better offensive line, a better system overall in general. You give him Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones. This guy is going to explode this year. We know that he's a great dual threat quarterback, but people are just forgetting about him because they haven't seen him play in a while. This is nonsense. This is recency bias. This is what we want to take advantage of in fantasy football, right? Guys aren't drafting Deshaun Watson simply because they've forgotten about him. This is the biggest mistake that people make in fantasy when they haven't seen anyone play in a while, is they sort of just write him off. But Deshaun Watson is still very young, okay? He's not even remotely close to being out of his prime. He's one of the best dual threat quarterbacks that we've seen in the league in quite some time when he's actually healthy, and now he's in a better system than he's ever been in. There is no way that Deshaun Watson will not explode this year. He's going to be a top 5 quarterback, and he's being taken as the 10th quarterback off the board. It makes no sense. He's a massive steal. If you want to wait on a quarterback, he's the perfect late-round steal. He's hands down probably the biggest steal in the entire draft at any position. Next player on my list is going to be Chris Olave. Now, this is a guy, a 4.3 40 time. Tremendous speed, can operate out of the slot, can operate outside. This dude is versatile. He's very talented. He's fast as lightning. He's listed as having a 4.39 40 time, but some would argue that he looks faster than that on the field. This dude is elite. He saw a 40% air yard share last year. This was top 3 in the NFL as far as, his air yard share. He saw 29 deep targets. That's 4th in the NFL, 2.57 yards per route run. The only number that wasn't good for Chris Olave last year in his rookie season was his touchdowns. He only scored 4 touchdowns. This was very much because the offense was kind of a mess all season long. Alvin Kamara was inconsistent. We had some quarterback injuries, and, the quarterback situation for the Saints last year was just kind of a mess. But now we insert Derek Carr, a quarterback that people don't give enough credit to. Derek Carr is a good NFL quarterback. Okay. I don't care what anybody says. Derek Carr is a good NFL quarterback. He had absolutely no help in Las Vegas because the coaching was just kind of a mess. The offense as a whole was just kind of a mess pretty much the entire time that Derek Carr was there. And he still led the offense to being pretty darn good some seasons. So this is a good NFL quarterback. Do not let anyone tell you that Derek Carr is not good. He is now definitely going to be the best quarterback that Chris Olave has had slinging him the rock, especially as far as just arm talent and slinging him the ball down the field. We know that this dude is going to receive tons of deep targets. We saw it last season. So with the speed, with all the deep targets, the big playability is there. Look for the touchdown upside to go up significantly with the improvement at quarterback. Chris Olave is a must-own player this year. Next player on my list is going to be Isaiah Pacheco. This guy really started to see increased pass catching work as the season went along for the Chiefs. 6 catches in the AFC Championship game versus the Bengals. This is a very good sign. He's going to be a dual threat back in what might be the best offense in the NFL and the Chiefs. They were pretty much the best offense in the NFL last season. There's really no reason why they shouldn't be just as good this year. I mean, it's a Pat Mahomes-led offense, for crying out loud. That's always going to provide tons of scoring upside. Now, the Chiefs running backs have been unreliable in the Mahomes era, mainly due to the fact that, when they get within the 5-yard line, they're targeting their receivers often instead of just pounding the ball at their running backs. But they haven't had a running back as good as Isaiah Pacheco in the Mahomes era yet. So Isaiah Pacheco, he's going to go off this year. We're looking at a guy who runs a 4.37 40. He's built like a brick house. He's an athletic specimen. 4.9 yards per carry last season. He was very efficient. This is a guy who is set to absolutely explode in this offense. I love him as a mid-round running back pick. He's a must-own player. Next and final player on my list is Garrett Wilson. I'm more excited about him than probably anybody I have on here outside of Deshaun Watson. 1,100 receiving yards last year, 147 targets. This was 6th in the NFL. 19 red zone targets and only 4 touchdowns. What does that mean? Inevitable positive touchdown regression is coming for Garrett Wilson. This dude's going to find the end zone like crazy this year, especially considering how efficient this offense is going to be. And there's no more Elijah Moore. This guy is going to be an absolute target hog. He saw 1,575 air yards last year, so the air yard share is tremendous. They throw on the ball a lot. They throw on the ball downfield. Now we add by far and away a better quarterback. He was producing with like not good quarterbacks last year. And now you add one of the better quarterbacks in the league in Aaron Rodgers. Yes, Aaron Rodgers is a little bit older, but he's still one of the better quarterbacks in the entire NFL. He's still very good. So now Garrett Wilson has the best quarterback of his young career. Yeah, it's only his second season, but the fact of the matter is he has the best quarterback that he's ever had throwing him the ball now in Aaron Rodgers. And so I love Garrett Wilson to absolutely explode this year. All right, guys, appreciate you tuning in. Catch you later.